Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
I document our perfect relationship. My psychiatrist says she doesn't exist. Every entry in my journal contradicts the last. Either I'm insane or something is editing my memories. She promises she's real. I write everything down. That's what Dr. Fleming told me to do after the incident at the observatory. Document your reality, Jasper, she said, adjusting her thick-rimmed glasses. Memory can be unreliable. Day 847. Had breakfast with Cordelia this morning. She made her famous blueberry pancakes, the ones that taste like clouds dipped in honey. We laughed about the time she accidentally programmed the coffee maker to play opera instead of brewing. Her laugh is like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I close the journal and smile. Cordelia sits across from me at our kitchen table, her copper hair catching the morning light streaming through our apartment window. She's wearing my oversized MIT sweatshirt, the one I got during my astrophysics doctorate. "What are you writing about me now?" she teases, stealing a piece of my toast. "Just documenting our perfect imperfection," I say. She rolls her eyes. "You and your obsessive note-taking. Sometimes I think you love that journal more than me." I reach across the table and take her hand. Her skin is warm, real, absolutely there. Never. Later, I flip back through previous entries, something I rarely do. My blood turns cold. Day 846. Spent the evening alone. Cordelia is still away on her research expedition to the Arctic. Miss her terribly. Called Dr. Fleming about the loneliness. Day 845. Cordelia doesn't exist. Dr. Fleming explained it again today. The hallucinations started after the electromagnetic pulse at the lab. I need to accept reality. My hands shake. These aren't my words. Someone has been tampering with my journal. Cordelia notices my expression from the kitchen. "Jazz, you look like you've seen a ghost. Someone's been writing in my journal." I tell Cordelia, holding up the leather-bound book like evidence in a trial. She sets down her coffee mug, the one with the faded NASA logo I bought her for her birthday. "What do you mean? Look at this." I flip to yesterday's entry. I wrote about our pancake breakfast, but now it says I was alone. It says you don't exist. Cordelia's face goes pale. She walks over and peers at the page. That's definitely your handwriting, Jazz. It's not possible. I remember writing about you. I always write about you." She sits beside me on the couch, her weight making the cushions dip. "Maybe you wrote it when you were tired? Sometimes when I'm exhausted, I'll write grocery lists and forget entire items I meant to include." "This isn't a grocery list, Delia. This is saying you're a hallucination." Her green eyes search mine. What if we're both forgetting things? What if something happened to both of us?" I laugh, but it comes out shaky. "That's ridiculous. You work at the Marine Biology Institute. You study bioluminescent organisms. You have that tiny scar on your chin from when you fell off your bike at age 7. You're allergic to shellfish but pretend you're not because you love crab legs. How do you remember all that when I can barely remember what I had for lunch yesterday?" The question hangs between us like a storm cloud. "I document everything," I whisper. She takes the journal from my hands. "Then let's document this conversation. Write down exactly what we discussed, word for word. Tomorrow we'll check if it's still there." Something in her voice makes me uneasy, but I pick up my pen anyway. Dr. Fleming's office smells like vanilla and disappointment. I sit in the familiar leather chair, my journal clutched against my chest like armor. "Jasper, we've discussed this before," she says, leaning forward with practiced concern. "Cordelia McKinnon died 3 years ago in the electromagnetic pulse accident at the Hadron Research Facility. You were both there. You survived. She didn't." "No." The word comes out strangled. "She made me pancakes yesterday. We talked about the journal entries changing." "Show me the entry from yesterday." With trembling hands, I open the journal. The page from yesterday is there, but the words make my vision blur. Day 848. Dr. Fleming increased my medication dosage. The hallucinations of Cordelia are getting worse. I had an entire conversation with empty air about my journal entries. I need to accept that she's gone. "I didn't write this," I whisper. "Jasper, this is your handwriting. Your journal. Your pen." Dr. Fleming's voice is gentle but firm. The electromagnetic pulse damaged the temporal lobe of your brain. It's created a very specific type of memory disorder combined with vivid hallucinations. Then explain this. I flipped to an earlier page where I'd written about Cordelia's research on deep-sea creatures. How would I hallucinate detailed marine biology research? Dr. Fleming pauses, studying the entry. You and Cordelia worked together for 2 years before the accident. Your subconscious is remarkably good at reconstructing her personality and interests. She's real, I insist. She's waiting for me at home right now, probably reorganizing my bookshelf by publication date instead of author name just to mess with me. Jasper, prove she doesn't exist. Come with me, right now. Dr. Fleming glances at her watch, then nods slowly. All right, let's go to your apartment. My key turns in the lock with its familiar click. Delia, I call out. I brought Dr. Fleming to meet you properly. Silence. The apartment feels wrong. Too quiet, too neat. The kitchen counter where Cordelia always leaves her research papers is bare. The couch where we cuddle during movies sits empty. No impression where her body usually curls against mine. She must be at the lab, I say, but my voice sounds hollow even to me. Dr. Fleming walks through the apartment methodically. She opens the bedroom closet. Only my clothes hang inside. She checks the bathroom medicine cabinet. Only my toothbrush sits in the holder. Jasper, she says softly. Look around. Really look. I do, and the truth hits me like cold water. There are no women's shoes by the door. No hair ties on the coffee table. No second coffee mug in the sink. But I can smell her perfume, I whisper. That lavender scent she always wears. Dr. Fleming opens the window. That's the lavender bush outside your building. Mrs. Patterson in 2B planted it last spring. I sink onto the couch, journal falling from my hands. This isn't possible. We had breakfast this morning. She stole my toast. What did you actually eat for breakfast, Jasper? I try to remember, but the memory feels slippery, like trying to hold water. Coffee. Just coffee. Dr. Fleming sits beside me. The mind is incredibly powerful. It can create entire realities to protect us from unbearable truths. Then why do my journal entries keep changing? Explain that. She's quiet for a long moment. Sometimes we write things we can't emotionally accept. Later, our conscious mind rejects those memories and overwrites them with more comfortable narratives. I pick up my journal and hug it to my chest. So I'm writing that she doesn't exist, then forgetting and writing that she does? It's a form of dissociation. Your brain is at war with itself. Suddenly, I hear keys jingling in the hallway. My heart leaps. The door opens and Cordelia walks in, carrying grocery bags and humming off key. She stops when she sees Dr. Fleming. Oh, you must be Dr. Fleming. Jazz has told me so much about you. Cordelia sets down the bags and extends her hand. I'm Cordelia McKinnon. Dr. Fleming stares at the outstretched hand but doesn't take it. Her face has gone completely white. Jasper, Dr. Fleming whispers. There's no one there. What? I look between them. Cordelia's eyebrows furrow in confusion. She can't see me? Cordelia asks. Of course she can see you. You're standing right there. I turn to Dr. Fleming. She's right there. Red hair, green eyes, wearing that blue dress with tiny anchors on it. Dr. Fleming slowly reaches toward where Cordelia stands. Her hand passes through empty air. Cordelia stumbles backward. That's not possible. Jasper, please sit down, Dr. Fleming says. You're having an episode. An episode? I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend and my psychiatrist. The only person having an episode is you, apparently developing selective blindness. Cordelia moves to the kitchen, her face pale. Jazz, ask her about the accident. Ask her exactly what happened that day. What happened the day of the accident? I ask Dr. Fleming. There was an electromagnetic pulse during an experiment with temporal field manipulation. The entire research team was affected. Most recovered fully, but you and Cordelia were closest to the epicenter. And Cordelia died? Yes, instantly. From the kitchen, Cordelia calls out, ask her about the temporal distortion readings from that day. What about the temporal distortion readings? I relay. Dr. Fleming frowns. How do you know about those? That information is classified. Cordelia appears at my shoulder. Because the pulse didn't just affect your brain, Jazz. It affected time itself. Cordelia paces our living room while Dr. Fleming sits frozen on the couch, staring at nothing. Well, nothing she can see. The temporal field experiment wasn't just about manipulating time, Cordelia explains. It was about creating stable pockets where multiple timeline possibilities could coexist. I write frantically in my journal, trying to capture every word. So you're saying the electromagnetic pulse created some kind of, what, parallel universe overlap? Not parallel. Intersecting. Think of it like radio frequencies. Normally they don't interfere with each other, but under the right conditions you get bleeding between stations. Dr. Fleming finally speaks. Jasper, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Cordelia, who is explaining quantum temporal mechanics that I definitely don't know enough about to hallucinate accurately. Cordelia continues, in one timeline, I died. In another, I survived but you died. In a third, we both survived but with altered brain chemistry that allows us to perceive temporal bleeding. That's scientifically impossible, Dr. Fleming interjects. Is it? Cordelia asks. I repeat her question aloud. Yes, absolutely. Temporal mechanics is purely theoretical. We can't manipulate time. Cordelia laughs bitterly. Tell that to the classified government funding for the project. Tell that to the military applications they were hoping for. When I relay this, Dr. Fleming's face goes ashen. How could you possibly know about military involvement? Because, Cordelia says, moving to stand directly in front of Dr. Fleming, I was the lead researcher on quantum entanglement applications. And you, Dr. Fleming, weren't just my colleague psychiatrist. You were the project's psychological consultant, tasked with monitoring subjects for temporal displacement syndrome. Dr. Fleming stands abruptly. This conversation is over. Jasper, I'm increasing your medication and scheduling daily sessions. Wait! I call as she heads for the door. If Cordelia is a hallucination, how does she know things I don't know? Dr. Fleming pauses with her hand on the doorknob. Because she doesn't. You're having false memories and confabulating information that seems plausible but isn't real. After she leaves, Cordelia sits beside me. Tomorrow, write down everything we discussed today. Every detail. If the entries change, we'll know something else is manipulating your memories. What if she's right? What if you're just my brain trying to cope? Cordelia takes my hand. Then I'm the most elaborate coping mechanism in history. I wake up at 3 a.m. with the strangest sensation, like someone has been rummaging through my thoughts while I slept. The journal sits on my nightstand, exactly where I left it, but something feels wrong. Cordelia isn't in bed beside me. I flip on the light and open the journal to yesterday's entry. My heart stops. Day 849. Dr. Fleming visited my apartment today, confirmed that I live alone and have been talking to empty air. The hallucinations are getting worse. I invented an elaborate backstory about temporal bleeding and government conspiracies. Need to accept reality. No, no, no. I whisper, flipping through page after page. Every entry about Cordelia has been replaced with clinical observations about my deteriorating mental state. Delia? I call out. She appears in the bedroom doorway, but she looks different. Translucent. Flickering like a bad hologram. Jazz? Something's wrong. I can barely hold myself together. The journal entries changed again. All of them. That's impossible. We were both here when you wrote yesterday's entry. They're all gone. I whisper. Cordelia staggers, her form becoming more translucent. Someone's actively editing reality. Not just your memories, actual recorded data. Who has that kind of power? Think about it, Jazz. Who benefits from you believing I'm dead? Who had access to classified temporal research? Who shows up every time you start remembering the truth? The pieces click together like a horrific puzzle. Dr. Fleming, she wasn't just the project's psychological consultant. She was in charge of containing the temporal bleeding, which means containing witnesses like us. But if you're really dead, I'm not dead. I'm displaced, scattered across multiple timeline frequencies. Dr. Fleming has been using some kind of temporal manipulation device to keep editing your memories, keeping me unstable. As if summoned by our conversation, there's a knock at the door. Jasper. Dr. Fleming's voice calls through the wood. I came to check on you. You missed our emergency session. Cordelia grips my arm. Don't let her in. She has the device with her. I don't open the door. Instead, I call through it. What temporal manipulation device are you carrying, Dr. Fleming? Long silence. Jasper, please open the door. You're having another episode. Funny thing about episodes, I shout back. They don't usually involve classified military research that I shouldn't know about. I hear the distinct sound of electronic beeping from the hallway. She's activating it, Cordelia whispers. Her form starts flickering more violently. The device destabilizes my quantum signature while editing your short-term memory formation. The apartment door suddenly swings open. I know I locked it. Dr. Fleming stands in the doorway holding what looks like a modified tablet connected to a small metallic device. Step away from the empty space you think is Cordelia, she commands. I can see the device, I say, which means I'm not hallucinating everything. Dr. Fleming's professional mask finally slips. The temporal pulse 3 years ago didn't just affect you and Cordelia. It affected the fabric of spacetime in a localized area. Cordelia exists in a quantum superposition, dead in some timelines, alive in others. My job is to prevent timeline contamination. Timeline contamination? Cordelia, now barely visible, struggles to speak. She's lying. The government wants to weaponize temporal displacement. I was going to expose the project. You killed her to cover up illegal experiments. I realize. I saved reality itself. Dr. Fleming snaps, raising the device. And I'll keep saving it, even if it means erasing you both. The device hums to life. Cordelia screams. A sound like glass breaking across dimensions. Jazz, whatever happens, remember that I love. Her voice cuts off as she vanishes completely. Dr. Fleming smiles coldly. Now, let's discuss your recovery plan. But I'm already writing in my journal, as fast as I can, documenting everything before she can erase it again. You can't stop me from writing the truth, I tell Dr. Fleming, pen flying across the page. She laughs. I've been editing your journal for months, Jasper. What makes you think this time will be different? Because this time, I'm not writing in the journal you've been tampering with. I hold up a different notebook, one I've kept hidden under the floorboards. I've been maintaining parallel documentation. Her confidence wavers. Every time you edited my memories, some part of me knew something was wrong. So I started writing backup accounts and hiding them. Want to know what I discovered? I flip open the hidden journal. Cordelia McKinnon didn't die in the temporal pulse. She was murdered 2 weeks later when she tried to whistleblow the military applications research. You injected her with a paralytic agent and left her in the lab during another pulse experiment. That's impossible. You can't remember. I can't remember consciously. But quantum entanglement works both ways. When you scattered Cordelia across timelines, you created a connection between us. Her memories have been bleeding into mine. Dr. Fleming raises the device again. It doesn't matter what you think you know. It matters to them. I nod toward the window. Military vehicles surround the building. Soldiers in tactical gear are already in the stairwell. I can hear their boots. I sent copies of everything to the FBI, the Pentagon, and the Washington Post before you arrived. I explain. Turns out, when you've been illegally experimenting on government property, there are people very interested in your unauthorized timeline manipulations. The device in Dr. Fleming's hands suddenly sparks and dies. She stares at it in horror. Electromagnetic pulse, I say cheerfully. Cordelia taught me how to build one from household electronics. Funny how a microwave transformer and some copper wire can disable your fancy temporal gadget. The apartment door bursts open as soldiers flood in. Dr. Angela Fleming, the lead soldier, announces, "You're under arrest for unauthorized temporal experimentation, murder, and treason." As they drag her away, she screams, "You don't understand. Timeline integrity must be maintained. Cordelia McKinnon cannot exist." The apartment falls silent. Then, impossibly, I hear familiar laughter. "You built an EMP device while I was being quantum scattered across multiple realities?" Cordelia materializes beside me, solid and real and laughing. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for me. I drop my journal and pull her into my arms. She feels real, warm skin, beating heart, the faint scent of lavender perfume. Are you actually here? Like, permanently here. Dr. Fleming's device was the only thing keeping me destabilized between timelines. Without it, quantum mechanics snapped me back to the most probable reality, the one where I survived and fell in love with a wonderfully obsessive astrophysicist who documents everything. So we're both really alive? Together? This isn't some final hallucination. Write it down and find out, she teases, nodding toward my journal. I pick up my pen and write, Day 850. Cordelia is real. We defeated the evil psychiatrist with household electronics and true love. Also, I should probably find a new therapist. There, I say. Documented. What if it changes again? Then I'll keep writing the truth until reality gets the message. 6 months later, we're testifying before a congressional committee about illegal temporal research. A year later, we're married. 2 years later, we publish a paper on quantum consciousness that revolutionizes both physics and psychology. I still write in my journal every day. The entries never change anymore. Day 1547. Had breakfast with my wife Cordelia this morning. She made her famous blueberry pancakes, the ones that taste like clouds dipped in honey. We laughed about the time she accidentally programmed the coffee maker to play opera instead of brewing. Her laugh is still like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Sometimes the most impossible things are just improbable truths waiting for the right documentation. P.S. Our new therapist, Dr. Martinez, says it's healthy to write down our feelings. She also says that surviving government conspiracies and temporal displacement creates a very strong relationship foundation. Who knew? P.P.S. Cordelia says I should stop adding postscripts to romantic journal entries. But she's reading over my shoulder and smiling, so I think she secretly likes them. P.P.P.S. She just kissed me to make me stop writing postscripts. It worked. The end.